Montreal in the Department of Visual and Media Arts. I teach a bit of sculpture and I'm responsible and I teach robotics. So today I'll go through the work from 2004 to right now, well, what's happening now. But I'll start with the recent work, because as you might know, yeah, it works. Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll come back to infrasense and deuterium afterwards. First I'll talk about radio bullets. The three installations that I'm going to talk about have one common thing, is that we got very interested in 2002, something like that, about how words were used and how they showed our interest in our personal and social environment. One word is virus. In French, it has 5 different definitions. Naturally, probably the oldest is the biological definition. And in 1982, we started using the same word to talk about the digital viruses. In English, we have 4 different definitions. Like I was saying, in the 70s, the viruses were invented by big companies. We always think that viruses were invented by kids in their basements and things like that, but they were actually invented by a huge organization that just wanted to check out if they could use viruses as something that could invent new processes and things like that. At first they were called organisms, and in 1983 it was the first time that somebody used the word virus to describe self-replicating programs. And actually they say that the first PC virus occurred in 1986, which is quite actually recent. In Spanish you have two definitions for the word virus. So this I'm going to talk about this word later. Infrasense that was presented from 2004 to 2006. It traveled quite a bit. And the Viritorium that was built, was shown the first time in 2008 and was then shown from 2008 to 2011. So I'm going to talk about the Regimolus. That was a large-scale installation that was presented last year in the International Digital Art Biennale in Montreal. From viruses that we talked about in infrasense and Viritorium, we moved on to other forms that virus could take or we could imagine, like the word viral, which is becoming, relating or caused by a virus, but then again, it's like becoming very popular by quickly circulating from person to person, or like going viral is to spread rapidly via the internet, email, and other media. But right now, every big company in the world, publicity company in the world, are looking for the right recipe to get something to be viral. Because getting viral is usually not something that you can plan, it just happens, which is the case with viruses, bodily viruses or digital viruses. if we go from viral, there's also what we call the earworm, which is like a catchy piece of music that continually repeats itself for a person's mind after it is no longer playing. It seems to affect some people more than others. And the British Journal of Psychology says that the earworms are usually 15 to 30 seconds in length. So we kept that in mind when we put up the sound in Legivoris. One thing that interested us is that while usually the viral song or some is usually also called a jingle somehow, which is a short tune used in advertising or for some other commercial use. We were very surprised to see that the top 10 jingles of the last century was, well, the first one you must know, You Deserve a Break by McDonald. I'm sure it was translated in all languages. It was translated at least in French, I'm sure, I remember. But the second one is that, surprising, is that is an army an advert from 1980, something like that, which was Be All That You Can Be. It was actually so good that it was used for 20 years. And the particular thing about a jingle, sometimes it's used as a background that's going to act as an earworm so that when you hear it, it'll provoke mental images relating to what you've seen or heard during when you were hearing the music. So the music is really the underground layer of a lot of jingles, well-thought advertising campaigns and things like that. And scientists and a lot of people have asserted that the music is partly a useful medium for delivery of propaganda. It depends a lot how we define propaganda. And why music is so useful is that it's always seen as a leisure activity, so that you're not aware that somehow they're trying to play with your mind. Usually propaganda is like neutrally defined as some form of systemic form of purposely persuasion, influencing emotion, opinion, actions, and things like that, to politically or ideologically influence the way you're going to think, react, and things like that. And one thing that part of the definition of propaganda is that it's always one-sided. Music used in like what we could consider propaganda, advertising campaigns and things like that, is that the music can be used for in principle or used for in musical instruments or form, but there must be national characteristics. So taking that all in perspective, we started building our installation. We wanted to build like a temporary tent or structure from where everything would eradicate. And and what we wanted to mimic with that is that how do you say that in English? The temporary recruitment stations that were used or are still used around the world. There's like usually a big office somewhere, and then it just, they send out temporary staff with the right equipment to try to convince younger people to join the army. In Canada, it's quite common. When I was a kid, they would be around on career days at school and things like that. In the United States, they say that there's usually they would put up booths around amusement parks, sports stadiums, and things like that. They did the same thing. They do the same thing in UK. You can see here an article that Professor reject army propaganda. I was like, actually, when I was putting up this document, I was asking myself, how about Colombia? And I was quite surprised. The first day I was here, I was just like walking down the street, and I saw this like huge camper bus, which was it's like a recruiting station for the National Police. So it does also happen here. So I'll just explain quickly, before we see the video, how it works and things like that. Well, this is like see here, the installation itself with the, oops, okay, great. Just decided that it's going to go in its own. You can see the scale here. And we have in the middle like what we call the bivouac, which is made out of an old army parachute. We wanted to look as if it had been dropped down, was there for a while. You wouldn't know how much time. And you could interact with it. The surrounding the bivouac is what we call listening stations. So they have, okay, now I'll explain that later, because otherwise, okay, let's see. So this is like the central bivouac. These are the boxes that you see there are the actual shipping box of the whole installation. So the whole installation fits into listening station and all. They fit in 7 boxes. On top of the bivouac, you have what is called an HSS speaker. HSS speaker actually is a new invention. It does to sound what the laser technology does to light. So it focuses it to something very, like really a funnel, so that if you're standing just outside of it, you don't hear it at all. The speaker itself doesn't emit any sound. I mean, you could be standing next to it, you don't hear anything. But if you get it into its focus, you can hear it very loudly, walk out, or if you're just like on the side of the beam, you'll hear it in one ear and you won't hear it in the other ear. The interesting thing about this technology, it was developed by this guy, a guy from California who's been inventing all weird stuff. He invented that in 1982, and got an award, got a MIT $500,000 MIT prize for it. It was said in the New York Times as Morris had reinvented acoustics, bigger use for advertising and crime fighting and combat. The interesting thing about the HSS, they're not available anymore because Norris sold his pattern in 2012 to the American Army, and they took off all the HSS that existed off the market. Another thing that interested us is that the HSS, gotta go back. The HSS actually gave out codes so that the visitors could use these codes to enter them in one of the listening stations and have the speaker open and play the music of an advert. But they couldn't predict what was going to happen, what kind of music they were going to get, or the from what country, nothing like that was identified or things like that. So our code were based on shortwave, on number stations. Number stations is a quite interesting phenomenon. It began in the 50s, and it's just like a ham radio, that amateur radio, which is can be used across the planet. And what it does, it's used to broadcast, send message to spies across the world. It has been used by most countries, and they say today that this kind of message sending is more secure than any encrypted or system. It's very simple. This is an actual recording. Yeah. It gets very sensitive. So basically how these things work is that somebody has an emitter somewhere, and the spy will get into a country, buy a small receptor for $100, will have the code to decode whatever he's going to receive. Naturally, it's not emitter, receiver, unique communication system. I mean, the message is sent across the planet. The person that is expecting the message receives it, writes it down, compares it to a decoding that he has. Then when he knows what the message is, he'll probably eat the small piece of paper with the decoding on it and throw away the radio. Or so these are the listening station. So the person in the visitor would, when entering the room, if he was in front of the HSS speaker, would hear a code and could enter the code with a knob here and the little LCD. The little LCD would tell him what number he was at, what was expected of him. We actually had, at first we collected like 80 publicities, military publicity across the planet in lots of countries. We kept 50, so each listening station had 10 adverts. They were not classified as like, this is from such a country or such an area or something like that. They were like really randomly. We chose to leave it very randomly. One reason for that is that we didn't want to like target to say, music used as propaganda and things like that is a US thing or a Russia thing or something like that. It's actually, when you look at it, I've been looking at 80 examples, more than 80 examples. You can see that everybody uses the same type of approach. It's always the same kind of promise. If you get into Army or Navy, you're going to be having vacation abroad, you're going to be sailing on huge white sailing boats, or you'll visit people, or you'll help people and things like that. Actually, that's not what I'm seeing when I look at the news.
Dernière émission. 9, 1, 7, 1, 3, 1. M2 sont bien.
Code now being used. 9, 1, 7, 1, 3, 1. Repeating. 9, 1, 7, 1, 3, 1. Last emission. 9, 1, 7, 1, 3, 1. And sending.
So once the HSS had finished emitting one set of codes, it would move by 10 degrees and then give another set. So people could enter, so it's like you could have many stations playing at the same time. So there's like the sound in the machines. We were not putting up the volume, things like that. We just, every time a code was entered and accepted, it would just move on to the next file, and actually you could hear the sound coming out, trapping between the two speakers that were tightly fitted together. This is well, we can see the message from the LCD there as you enter the code. The machines are not like Bill machines, which are rapid and very energetic. I always like to play with like very slow machine that you have to wait for, putting your patient to good use. Because if you were to rush a machine, you would get a message that, like this one, it says code OK. As you can see here, when this girl starts doing it, she's very impatient. She just like clicks the numbers as she remembers them, and so naturally at the end she's going to get like wrong code, wrong number, try again, and it would give her a code she could use, or she could listen to the HSS, who was probably giving out a code at that time. all the soundtracks that we used were actually the actual soundtracks of real army or military advertisement. Actually, some countries, they've sent us the music. Others, we just had to strip the voices off because we didn't want to keep like voice saying, get a roll today or get a life or whatever. Okay, so I'll go back to continue by going back to older stuff. InfoSense was the first installation of that series about viruses and things like that. With this dual, or in French, like 5 definitions of viruses, it appeared to us that some people often attribute the same importance to and can discuss easily, and what I'm winking an eye about flu viruses, a loss of data to a computer virus, or the HIV pandemic. What we did is that every time we install the installation in the new city, it's shown 11 times across, like in USA, Los Angeles, and England, and Canada. One time, in Belgium. So every time we would get into a city to install it, we would just ask people on the street, people visiting the gallery for the shows, or we'd ask people to like, please tell us a story about the virus. We actually collected 140 interviews, and we would not edit the interviews, except we would remove names if ever they would name people and things like that. And we wouldn't ask, like, tell us a virus, bodily virus, or tell us about a digital virus. We just ask, like, tell us a story about a virus. And people would tell sometimes, like, like last week I had a virus on my computer, I lost a document, and two very dramatic stories about people talking when things like when they got HIV. I remember a guy in Vancouver who had a very distinct voice, and he in his story said that he had HIV for 12 years, and we told him, well, and nobody knew about it, and we told him that, well, if he's going to be in the show, maybe people would recognize his voice. And he said that the show was going to be coming out as having HIV. So InfoSense is a show that took different looks depending where it was shown, like in Montreal and in the center there. You can see it's like a huge industrial space that's used as a gallery, where other places, and where we used the whole 9 horses. People were not allowed to walk among the horses. It was more like some kind of video show where you have to be stay out, and you look at the, as you'll see, you look at the horses move back and forth very slowly. The sound is inside the white box that you see above the, or I should say on top of the horses. And that's where we would put the voices of the people. So when you walk in the galleries, you'll see in the video, you would hear like 9, or depending on how many horses we had, you would hear all of them at the same time. And you would have in the gallery handheld control that would, with which you could control what we call the bugs there. This thing here, they're controlled by the audience. So if you drove a bug next to a horse, the horse would stop and start delivering its story loud for about 20 seconds. and then it would go back down, stop moving. You could chase the horse down to start to hear the story. What we want is it's the same feeling that you have when you're standing alone in a crowd and you hear everybody talking at the same time. And then you pick up little pieces of conversation there and there, and you can like kind of make a story out of it, which is not going to be the real thing. Naturally, we use a horse for the figure of the Trojan horse used in bad choice. Sorry.
Is actually pregnant, and so it apparently had to do with that. So they say that, yeah.
But I got 5 minutes left, so I'll just move on. I'll stop that.
Basically, it destroys your blood cells, you bleed out everything. A young man died with
Okay. The next work is the Vittorio. I'll just show you rapidly the video as soon as this one stops in the background there. And where in Vittorio we had a very different approach to the viruses, where visitors were actually invited to